So Sarah, are you wanting to put people in breakout rooms? You want them to just go in this one group? What is your preference? Because sometimes we don't make those decisions until the day, right? Because you sort of
no, yes. So
it's the vibe of the room, right? That's teachers are good on their feet.
This is exactly how it happens. Yeah. So actually, Beth, what was the actual? How are we breaking everybody up? What was the?
I think let's let everyone listen to all the speakers, and then we can entertain questions as at the end, or if folks don't mind being interrupted in the middle, then we can put questions in the chat and we can interrupt there.
So, Anne, what we can have you do is Travis will spotlight them just like you were. And if you just want to introduce them, and then we'll have them spotlighted, and then they can share their story. So if you can introduce them, and then we'll go from there.
Actually, we're going to have them introduce themselves.
Perfect.
Much quicker. So whoever is closest to you, I think I see Isaac here. So let's start with him.
Sounds great.
He's our California guy.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Isaac Niffing. I'm currently a facility systems manager at San Mateo County Community College District, which, as we mentioned, is in California. It's kind of between San Francisco and Silicon Valley. But before I go into what I do now, I just give a little background. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and I studied sustainable energy management at CNY ESF, and I graduated in May of 2016. Similar to many of you, I maybe was like kind of interested in sustainability, didn't really know what direction I should go to really simultaneously fulfill my passions and interests while using the best of my abilities and skills. And I got to ESF and I didn't really have the best grades, or I was kind of getting in trouble and just wasn't, didn't really find my place yet until I took this class called Global Environment, which really introduced me to systems thinking, basically drawing connections between different environmental problems and solutions. That really inspired me to kind of dig into my classwork and really find my niche. So I really enjoy taking classes in the built environment, so learning about energy systems and buildings. And that's really what I do today. I work for a community college district, which has 3 campuses and 92 significant buildings. And I'm really helping them reach their zero net energy goals and also decarbonize. I'm the main point of contact between us, our facilities team, and our heating, ventilation, air conditioning vendors and maintenance engineers. And really, I'm just kind of the main point of contact to try and make sure all of that's running smoothly. Like, my favorite part of my job is I get to work with community college students and actually take these projects and turn them inside out so that they can use our campus as a living lab and learn from the sustainability projects. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot overview of who I am and what I do. And I'm very honored to be speaking with you all today, and really excited to learn more about your skills, passions, and interests.
Isaac, can you speak briefly about your time between graduating ESF and Youth Climate Corps?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually worked while I was in ESF, I actually worked under Dr. Tim Volk, who runs our biomass energy program at ESF. So I was very interested in just learning more about agroforestry and that type of thing. So I actually did an internship in Ecuadorian Amazon. I spent 2 months in Ecuador learning from indigenous communities on their agroforestry practices. And I came back from that summer, I was completely broke. I didn't really have a job lined up. And I was a little bit starting from square one. Fortunately, I was able to find a position in LED lighting sales in Syracuse. So I was going around, this is right around the time of the 2016 election, going around door to door to small businesses throughout central New York and trying to essentially sell them LED lights, which was a really humbling and really great experience. I learned a lot, but I could tell pretty quickly that it wasn't really for me. So I had heard about some programs out in California where you could work with energy managers directly through this program called Climate Corps. And I thought, oh, that'd be interesting. It's more in line with what I actually want to do. For those of you that don't know, an energy manager is somebody that works to ensure that a building or a portfolio of buildings energy use is optimized, and trying to make them as energy efficient as possible. So I wound up applying through this program called Climate Corps, which not only kind of had me almost as an apprentice for an energy manager, but it also immersed me in a network of about 75 other emerging sustainability professionals in the San Francisco Bay Area. So for about 10 and a half months, I was working with them and collaborating with them on a variety of sustainability projects, which ultimately introduced me to my current boss, and in the institution I'm working with now. So it was a really good bridge to career program for me. Well, it didn't pay extremely well. It wasn't able to save up for a yacht or anything. It was kind of like a slingshot to propel me into the next stage of my career.
Thank you, Isaac. We might have a chance to circle back about that, and we'll definitely share with our master teachers as ESF begins the early stages of having conversations about bringing this to out of ESF in SEI's new Northeast model. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's see, Jason, Nick. Who's next? I don't see anybody. How about if you're an ESF alum and you just pop out and let us know who you are. Let's get things started.
I can go next if you want.
Beautiful.
I actually made a slideshow because I like slideshows. Can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a little new with Zoom, so I apologize if you see my messy desktop. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's see if it works. So my name's Catherine. I graduated. Oh, sorry. I don't know how to use this. There it is. Okay. Do you see it? Is it okay?
You do.
Okay. So my name's Catherine. I'm from Syracuse, New York. Technically I'm from Cicero, New York. I went to CNS High School and I graduated in 2016. And then I went to ESF and I graduated in May of 2020 with a degree in environmental health. And my focus was in water, wastewater, and my minor was in chemistry. And I kind of said this before, I packed up everything the month after I graduated and I moved to rural Minnesota for a job with the Indian Health Service, which is under the Department of Health and Human Services. And so about my job, I do work for the Indian Health Service as a civil servant right now. And I'm currently trying to get into the US Public Health Service. It's a uniform service that uses the Navy ranks. So it's like so it uses the Navy ranks, and I think during times of war we're put into the Navy, but we are separate as of right now. And basically what I do a lot of public health work with the tribes, and because of the COVID-19 pandemic and everything, it's been a lot of COVID-19 work. So for example, this week I've been working with a few of my coworkers to put together a hospital guidance document on how to keep your hospitals clean and practice your best infection control policies. So that's everything that I was doing this week. It was quite a big document, but we just sent that out yesterday. So I'm very excited about that. I also do a lot of like surveys. So if you think of like a health inspector, it's definitely not the best part of the job, but we'll go to kitchens, we'll go to hospitals, we'll go to any type of institutional environment, and we look for health and safety violations, and then we write codes on it, or we pull the codes on it and we write reports. So if you're good at codes and like FDA food code, caring for our children, any of those codes, this is the career for you. But the main reason that I picked this job is I'm hoping to get my master's in public health, and I want to do it in epidemiology. So if you see this picture right here, that was when I was doing a tick drag. And we also do a lot of Lyme disease mapping, which that's what I'm mostly interested in. So I got here because I thought up until my senior year that I was going into the Navy. I did everything in my career path to get me into the Navy. I went to the gym every day. I talked to recruiters. I had a contract all set up. I actually did change my major though. I started as biology. I was pre-med and then just decided that biology was not for me. So I switched it to environmental health, and the Navy had a really competitive environmental health program that I was very interested in. However, I ended up getting an internship with the Public Health Service my junior year, and that just completely changed my career outlook. And I was like, this is the field for me. I need to be in public health. So that's when I switched to the US Public Health Service, and here I am. One thing I wish I knew was it is a little difficult moving to a rural town 1,000 miles away during a pandemic. The only thing my town is known for is being the birthplace of Paul Bunyan. And even that's a hotly debated topic because there's another town like 50 miles down the road that claims the same thing. So, you know, it's okay. So my college experience, my advice would be to make the most of it. I was in the Undergraduate Student Association for all 4 years. I did hold leadership positions. And for 3 of those years, I was the director of student affairs, which then switched to the director of student affairs. I don't remember. It was a while ago. And then I was also sophomore class chair and senior class chair. I was in a sorority at Syracuse, and I did do 2 sports at Syracuse too. So if ESF is somewhere you want to go, I do recommend joining the Syracuse community too, because you will find even more people that you never thought you'd ever meet. And I was also an orientation leader. And because of these experiences, I was able to meet similar people like me. My freshman year, I got deathly ill during orientation week and I didn't really meet anyone. So it was because I took steps to like kind of come out of my shell, I was able to finally meet people and I loved it. So what do I want to do now? I don't know. The path to success is not linear. I do want to go to grad school. I think that I think I'm ready to go to grad school, but you know, I don't know, and that's okay. It's okay to not know what you want to do. I guess my advice would be to identify your passions. You all seem to be pretty passionate about the environment. Seems like why you're here, so that's good. That's a good first step. And then just ask yourself, why are you passionate and what makes you good at your passion? And can you see yourself doing this for a long time? These are all questions that I ask myself. And here I am now doing a job that honestly, it's a pretty good job for someone who is only 22. I'm the youngest at my office by like 10 years. So I'm really pleased with my outcome. And it's always good to ask for help too. You don't need to do this alone. And this is a picture of my new dog. Her name's Joseph. But if you have any questions, let me know. That's my school email, and you can text me because I know if you're interested in like federal work or anything, applying for the federal sector can be quite overwhelming. So if you need help, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to stop sharing. Oh, there it is.
Great. Thank you so much. Who's up next?
I can go next.
All right.
Hey guys, my name is Anish. I was born and grew up in India, a city called Pune, which is near Mumbai. And like growing up, I always loved nature. So for college, I moved halfway around the planet to ESF. Looking back to it, I was like, wow, that was like, I had no idea where I was going, but ESF seemed like a good place to start, and it didn't disappoint. I had a really good experience academically, but also taking part in like cutting edge research, which is what I was always enthused by. And that led me to, so I did my bachelor's in environmental biology with a minor in biotechnology at ESF. And then I went and did my master's in environmental engineering at University of Buffalo. And now I'm working at Cornell as a research scientist, and I work with the New York State Hemlock Initiative, which is based in Cornell. So if you guys don't know, the hemlocks in our region are threatened by, like, literally threatened to extinction. There's a disease similar to the chestnut blight that was mentioned in the Kahoot. There's the hemlock woolly adelgids that are causing this infestation. And I work with one of the groups that is trying to figure out how can we control the spread and probably prevent death of one of the most abundant trees out here. And how can we do it in the most sustainable way possible so that we don't have a lot of spillover effect in our management. So just being really conscious of all the impacts and everything we've learned from previous infestations and management. So it's just a lot of different aspects coming together. And so that's mostly what I do day to day, is kind of working a little bit in the lab, a little bit in the field. Every day looks different, which is why I love what I do. And yeah, I think I'm gonna put my email in the chat once this is done, so you can reach me and ask me questions later on if you have any. What else? I had one more thing. Yeah, when I was in Buffalo, I dipped my feet in a little entrepreneurial venture. I had my own company called Protein Responsibly. And what we essentially did was we made sustainable meat alternatives using insects as a protein source. So we actually partnered with a insect farm in Colorado, and they produce insects for human consumption, which are FDA approved. And the whole idea comes from, like, you know, we don't eat insects because they look gross, or but a dead cow looks gross. Like, if you've ever seen like a dead cow in front of you, it's not, you don't feel like eating it, but you do feel like eating a burger when it's like full of spices and cooked properly and does not look like a cow. And so that's what we do with insects, is we take insects and make really good, tasty burgers out of them. Unfortunately, after COVID and after us, the whole team moving out of Buffalo, the company is not running anymore, but it was still something that profoundly changed the way I look at the world now and where I see my life going moving forward, because I think you can always make the biggest impact for sustainability by changing our consumption habits. And so that is a lot of where, even though I'm a scientist at heart and I love science, I love being in the lab, love making discoveries, but there's like a big part of me that just wants to bring about change. And so yeah, that's.
Thank you, Nish. Appreciate that. Who's next?
I can go next, Anne.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alia Abakube. And just as a background of who I am and where I came from, I was actually born in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. You may have heard of it. It definitely it wasn't as extravagant as it is now, more than 20 years ago. But I grew up in Syracuse for most of my life. And I also went to CNS, and I graduated in 2011. And for the longest time, I didn't know what I wanted to go into. And all I knew was that I loved environmental science. And I also took ESF in the high school as well, which truly inspired me and motivated me to go to ESF and pick my major in environmental science. So I went to ESF for 4 years, got my bachelor's in environmental science, minored in bioprocessing science, and my focus area was renewable energy. And I had a wonderful time. I made so many friends with people with like minds, and we all truly wanted to make a difference and make the world sustainable. And the professors and all of the students come together, and truly it's such a motivational and incredible experience, because everyone is pretty much in that same niche and wants to it wants to make the world a better place, as cliche as that sounds. But yeah, I remember Dr. Volk, he helped me actually get one of my internships at the time with the New York Biomass Energy Alliance, which was wonderful. I was able to travel all over New York State and interview people and talk to colleges and organizations and companies that transformed plants into energy, which was truly truly a wonderful experience that I got to do that. And yeah, after graduating from ESF, everyone asks the question like, well, what's next? What are you going to do next? And for me, I actually worked for 4 years at a consulting firm called Leidos Engineering, and I helped commercial clients such as Walmart, Burlington Coat Factory, and gas stations change their lights to LEDs. So those are the really bright lights that you'll see when you walk through a store, and we helped calculate their energy savings. So Walmart would come to us and let us know, hey, we want to change all of our fluorescent lighting to these more energy efficient light bulbs, and we would go ahead and do all of our calculations and send that to them and help them come up with the best possible solution for their stores. But a little over a year ago now, I decided that I wanted to go back into my environmental field, and that's the beauty of it when you start to work in your career and learn as you go, and I'm still learning, but I decided I wanted to go back to my environmental roots, and so I work in the environmental department at National Grid. It's been a wonderful experience so far. I am an analyst with them, so I work a lot with the DEC and the EPA. I make sure that we're reporting everything correctly. There's a lot of hazardous waste that we generate as a utility, and we want to make sure that we're not harming the environment and we're following all of the guidelines set by these organizations. So I help with all of that. And recently I've actually been involved in an incredible project where we're planting over 3,200 species of trees and shrubs in about 7 acres of land. So that has been a wonderful project. We're recreating a wetland where we dug holes so they can become ponds. And hopefully within the next year or so, we hope that when the rain comes, we can encourage turtles and frogs and salamanders to come to these ponds. And it's truly been an incredible project to be a part of, and that's wrapping up soon. But yeah, so far I've just really enjoyed my experiences since I've graduated, and once I was in ESF, and that truly gave me that platform to be where I am today. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
There was a quick question.
Yep.
The area that you're reclaiming as wetland, was it once a wetland?
Yes, so it was once a wetland. A farmer actually utilized that area for his crops, but that farmer is actually leaving. So National Grid bought that plot of land, and we're recreating those holes into the ground to make those ponds for the animals to come.
Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yes, by all means.
Okay. Can you hear me? I am Caesar York. I'm currently the executive director for a nonprofit that I started. It's called the Bronze Institute for Urban Systems. So I basically do almost everything. I write proposals, I try to get funding, I hire people to do consulting work. So the vision of the institute is to how the Bronx to become an innovator in finding solutions to climate change. So I work on those things, and then I was out of ESF in 2003, so I've done many different things. So I'm just going to focus on a couple of things that are related to science. I was at the Smithsonian Institution Conservation Research Center. We were working on the Asian elephant. So my focus at ESF was in GIS and surveying. So I have a degree in environmental studies, a bachelor's of science in environmental studies. And then I also took that global and the environment course. That course had an influence on me. And then he also has provided me with the knowledge to understand like renewable energy. Dr. Charles Hall mentioned systems ecology in that course, and also energy return on investment. So I use energy return on investment to understand this renewable energy. So I usually have arguments. Actually, not. Some people don't like to hear certain things about biomass and all these things, but based it on the research that Dr. Charles Hall did regarding those renewable energy. And I was also at the Wildlife Conservation Society. We were working on the Marine Footprint Project to see what humans are doing to marine ecosystems around the planet. So a study was done for that, and then a paper was written identifying the problems that we causing in marine ecosystems. And the other one was working at the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. We were working on something called the Green Infrastructure Plan. So a lot of areas in New York City are concrete or asphalt. And then that causes a lot of problems with water contamination throughout the city. So we were just trying to find a way how we could use green infrastructure in order to reduce the water contamination. ESF, let me see. I was in Tower Power. I was a floor representative when I was a freshman. So the students in my floor elected me to become the representative for the floor. So that was my first selection I ever won. and then I was also a member of Baobab. I did some work with Baobab, and then a fraternity called Alpha Phi Omega. So I was working using. I was volunteering throughout the neighborhood. And then one thing that influenced me, funny thing I would say regarding a lot of these things, I could say a lot of things and stuff, but one of the reasons why I decided to start the Institute is that we don't have a lot of people of color in the urban planning, environmental science, and GIS field. I attended Hunter College. I have a master's in urban planning, and many times I went when I went to land use meetings, community meetings regarding zoning, there were not a lot of people of color in those meetings. So I just felt like we needed more people there in those fields, and also we lack representation in the climate justice movement. So, and that has been my work for over 4 years now. I started the institute about 3 years ago, but it's more like I talk to youth for them to be aware of these fields, and then for them to find a way to go to ESF, learn about these things. When we when we're talking about climate justice, environmental justice, and all these things, it's important to know that a lot of this information out there, renewables, they just not really the solutions to the problems at times. And then it's hard for people to hear it. Well, the only way to back it up is by the scientific evidence and the reports and the research. Some of them came from ESF faculty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caesar. Thanks.
I can go next.
Hi.
Hi, everybody can hear me? Okay. So yeah, I'm Nidhi. I graduated ESF in 2017 with an environmental engineering degree. Okay, going even backwards, I am originally from India as well. I grew up in a city called Jaipur. It's like in the northwest corner of India. It's a pretty urban city and has a lot of drought issues. So that's what initially got me interested in water. To begin with, I grew up with having like days where we had no water, or we had like 1 hour of running water per day, like in the day. So we had to fill up tanks or get water from other sources. Yeah, while growing up, I kind of knew I was interested in solving this problem. In high school, I was really interested in, my favorite subjects were geography and physics. I didn't know what to make of that. So I just chose my idea of like, okay, I want to do something in the water field. Let's apply to colleges in the US and let's see where that gets me. I applied for mostly environmental science / economics programs, or like generalized programs, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to work in the environmental space. When I found in like ESF, it felt like a pretty good match for me. It was a small school. I didn't know Syracuse well enough. When I had first at Syracuse, I remember finding the city in Italy and I was very confused by that. But then I realized, okay, it's a good school. It's attached to a bigger university. So if I need to change my mind, I can go to the other university and like take another major if like environmental field is not for me. So really getting into this field, I did not know coming out of high school what I was going to do. I started in environmental science where I met Anne. She was my advisor. And when I started college, I wasn't really good at calculus. Like I hated calculus coming into college. But then I had to take calculus. And then I had to take a few engineering type courses. And I got interested in them. And I realized maybe I should try and see if engineering is for me. So I take a very introduction to engineering course, and I really enjoyed it because it was all about like framing the problem and putting structure to how to solve it. And apparently I was good at calc, so that worked. So I switched my major to engineering. After switching, I quickly realized that there's so many ways to look at a water problem, and like you can look at wastewater treatment. You can look at stormwater management, which is flooding issues, or you can like solve drought issues, water resource issues. And I got more and more interested in solving the flooding challenges or stormwater management problems because they had a lot of cool problems with them. I took some coding classes in college too, which was amazing. One of my favorite classes was a coding class where I got to learn Python and use climate data to solve, understand and solve problems, design systems. So when I graduated, I was pretty sure that I wanted to do something in water engineering or water science fields. I graduated and got a job in White Plains, New York, which is very close to the city. It's like 1 hour away from the city, north of the city. By the city, I mean New York City. So I got my job as a water engineer there. I'm still working here. It's been 3 years. Almost all my work and my projects happen to be in New York City. If I have to broadly describe my job, it's solving infrastructure problems for New York City, because I probably worked on not just water jobs. I worked on trash collection. I worked on bridge design. I'm right now working on a hospital, Jacobi Hospital retrofit, where we are trying to make it more flood proof. So I've done some structural work in there, it's it's really cool that I'm getting to do all of this, but in the end of the day, I'm getting more and more interested in the flooding problems in New York City, and I'm enjoying the work that I enjoy the most is like modeling the system. So understanding how like we all learn about the hydrologic cycle pretty early on. We learn that waterfalls, precipitation happens, and then all of the other things like infiltration, some overflow to the ocean and all. But actually putting it into a model is pretty cool. Seeing how it goes through the sewer systems, how it floods over land, where it causes flooding issues in New York City, and like how do we solve it? How do we manage that amount of water that's flooding flooding areas and neighborhoods currently? And then we also look at sea level rise flooding. So you have to sort of understand like how different types of flooding interact, where the water sits, and how you can manage it. And I think Caesar was talking about the green infrastructure program that I worked on for New York City a little bit also, where we have designed like underground storage systems for the water. We have designed some overland infiltration basins and green streets. So putting on like wetland structures sort of in New York City parks so that they can handle a lot of the water during heavy storm events. So it's all over the place, but it's pretty exciting to be like looking in New York City. It's a very exciting. I could probably spend my entire life and still have more to learn with it. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you
If
so
you,
much.
yeah,
Nancy. Thank you.
no problem. I will put my email also in the chat. So if anybody wants wants to ask me more questions, definitely feel free.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna have Jackson is gonna bat clean up here.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Can everyone hear me okay?
Perfect.
Right. So I'm excited for all the stories I've heard so far. I mean, it just gives me hope that, you are still in the line, right? And one of the things I'm learning about the sciences is that if you are not failing enough, then you are not learning enough, and some of these stories just confirm it. My name is Jackson. I am a PhD student here at CNY ESF in the chemical engineering department. I'm also a concurrent master's candidate in the Syracuse University's Master of Public Administration, which I just recently picked up because I'm interested in non-governmental organizations as far as science is concerned. So my goal really is to apply science and policy to change society. So a lot of stories I've heard, and this is what my story is. I understand that there are educators here and students here, and I thought that we can all learn from each other's stories. So maybe mine would do a good job to motivate students who are coming into the sciences, or give just an idea to educators on what students might be motivated by. I'm sure most of you know that we have water in air, water vapor in air. An experiment as simple as that is what got me into the sciences way back in basic school. It was a group of young folks who were alumni who came back to our college, actually our basic school, to just run some small science experiments, amazing ones. And I was there. One of them, I clearly remember whatever they were going to prove, I was totally against it. For example, the example of the water vapor in air. I mean, air is like that. How can you see water in it? There is no water in there. If you were, you would have seen it. And then condensation, a simple condensation experiment back then using ice cubes proved otherwise. And I was so fascinated. That is one of the reasons I am in science today. And so right after that, I knew that I had to go into science. I have school, I read science, but then I failed to get into the university, the college, the year I completed high school. So I found myself working in a local sawmill. I worked in the local sawmill. They process wood generally. And one of the things I realized there was that, I mean, if you took a log, a very big log, about 40%, 45, 50% of that log ends up being waste or sawdust, wood chips, and all of that. And what do we do with it? We burn them or use them for landfills, and that didn't settle well with me. But that's why I'm currently in wood science, sustainable materials. We shouldn't be burning our very resourceful timber resources, and so I started thinking around that. And when I went to college, initially I was going to do something else, chemical engineering, but I thought that it's still around chemical engineering, but focus on materials, specifically wood. We should find a better means of using our wood resources. And that is why I practically just went into wood. My BSc thesis was centered around using sawdust and cross-linking sawdust with polyester resins for composites that would be used for tiles, tested and proven to work very well with comparative styles, established tiles brands in Ghana. And that was, I mean, winning around that time was very beautiful, right? So that's how I really entered the sciences, and so I now look forward to going to grad school because I love research. I mean, that was a beautiful research life for me, my undergrad. So started looking into colleges. A lot. I knew I had to be in the US. Oh, I'm from Ghana. Did you mention that? From Ghana in West Africa. So I knew I had to be in the US because most of the research papers I had read to finish my bachelor's thesis were papers from the US, published from US universities, So I knew that, well, I had to be in the US. And ESF was one of the places I looked into a lot, Oregon State as well. And so I came down here to read wood science. And that is what I've been up to. My current research is centered around this. And another question I'm going to ask though, that how many of you know that our first airplanes were produced from wood? Can I see by hands? Right, wood. That was in 1903 by the Wright brothers. So today we don't use wood anymore for airplanes. We use the likes of metals, alloys, carbon fibers, if you may, because they are strong and they were lightweight. In my lab today, we are asking the question, can we go back to wood for our aerospace construction materials? Can we go back to nano wood extracted at a nanoscale? Can we go back to nanocellulose? A lot of research has been done around this, especially using nanocellulose, because extracting materials at a nanoscale gives you a very high, the smaller particle size you get in the high surface area, and that you can use to functionalize and get very, very beautiful materials and properties. So that is what I'm centered right now at ESF in the Institute of Sustainable Materials and Manufacturing. And so I love it. And that is just because some way, somehow, back then when I was young, some folks came to, just give us this beautiful idea of how science is beautiful or science, and I challenged that. And then I realized, no, this is a very beautiful way to go. And that's why I'm in this. Someone asked whether she was going to want to go to grad school or not. that's something I fought myself on too, you know. I like getting the work done. I like being in the field and all of that. And now I have to sit in my lab 24/7, mixing things, reactions, you know. But that's a very good way to start. I entered grad school because I loved research, you know. I love um, looking into theories and all of that, and failing as well is beautiful. So, what did you wish you knew then? Um, One of the things I wish I knew then was that the basic things I was learning in science are the same basic things you build on as a researcher or as a scientist. You know, sometimes you just consider some of those things as like, well, very basic things like balancing a chemical equation, and they are very important things that you're going to build on. The same way you balance a reaction between sodium hydride and 3-chloromethyl-styrene is the same way a scientist um, is going to balance the same reaction. So I wish that I knew that, and I took some very basic principles very seriously, because some of the things I ignored, I had to calm down. As you progress in life on your academic or research journey, you have to learn them again, and that can be a real pain if you did away with the basics. So that's one of the things that I wish I knew then, and another thing that I wish I knew then was to reach out to people, to reach out to folks. You know, if you're passionate about anything, just reach out to folks. And people are willing to help you. And that is why I'm currently working around the clock to have what is established as the Prodigy Academy for young people, where we just look out for any kid who is into anything related to the sciences. You know, maybe not in the sciences, but so long as you have a passion and something keeps you awake at night, we want to help you build on it. You know. So as a very young person, maybe 15, maybe 16, 20, I believe that at that age, you can still be contributing your space to research, you know, in wherever way you find yourself. As I'm speaking with you now, I'm working with some students in Ghana between the ages of 16 and 18 who are collecting data, practically social research, collecting data via questionnaires on the COVID-19, you know, preparing for the next pandemic in Ghana, um, um, asking young people how they have dealt with this pandemic and how they can work around the clock. The beautiful thing about being in science and understanding the scientific principles is that you can go in any area, you know, so long as you understand the scientific principle very well, you can do research or collaborate with research on almost every sphere. I started as a wood science guy from forestry, but today I find myself sometimes on panels where we're talking about drug delivery. That is because I'm also working on nanomaterials that have a lot to do with, you know, preparing nanomaterials basically has a lot to do with drug delivery, especially using the methodology you have to use and for which purpose you have to use them. So my biggest advice for folks today is to just remain open as much as possible. Keep the hard work going. Every speaker actually had the same thing. It doesn't matter if you find yourself in the businesses or in the arts, you can always come back to the sciences. You know, Elon Musk and co and other big scientists out there would remind you that. And on failure, though, you have to fail. Okay, like I said before, if you're not failing enough, then you're not learning enough. Each time any reaction in the lab goes south, uh, I mean, I'm sad, but then I'm also happy that I just learned a new way why or new reason why it won't work. But that also means that I have learned another plausible way why it could work. you're always a step closer. And research is not always about, or science is not always about getting what you want to see. Sometimes you get things that are even better than what you expected to see. So I think I'll end there and then receive any questions. If you have any questions, I'll put my email and contacts right in the chat box, and you can always reach me at any time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackson.
I want to thank all of the panelists who came and spoke with us today. It was so exciting for me as a teacher to know that there are so many directions that I can send my students in who are so interested in the environment. You all have incredible stories to tell. And I thank you. And I thank Anne for getting this wonderful group of people together to talk to us. We have a few minutes for questions. Anyone out there have a question they would like to ask of the group? I know that there are also lots of emails that are in the chat. So if you want to send something privately to the speakers, that information is there, and we can, if you don't find it in the chat and later on you have a question, I know we can connect you with the person that you want to talk with.
Isaac, you
Well-
said when you first moved out to New York City that you were working with sustainability projects. I would love to share some of those that you worked with my students that I teach in my environmental class. So I'll be reaching out to you with those. And then I was thinking, I think it was Needy. I think I'm saying that right. You work with the flooding issues in New York City. Are you seeing an acceleration at the pace that they're working on with the flooding issues with climate change, that the city is moving towards addressing that?
Yeah, I think definitely that's been a big push in New York City in general. They have plans for 2030 that we are currently working on. A lot of New York City has not been systematically modeled, and that's been a big push because if we don't have a correct model, we cannot assess what's going to happen in the future. So we are trying to get the models together by 2022 so we can sort of start working and projecting more accurate results for flooding issues and highlighting areas which really need care. So New York City is on a big push for this. It's one of the, even during COVID, I had really thought that because of COVID, this will become a back burner issue. They will start caring about real infrastructure capital projects more, but it's not been the deal. We are actually pushing forward with managing flooding and modeling these sewer systems. Yeah.
Just absolutely fascinating. So thank you for sharing.
I actually had a
Yeah,
question.
feel free. Sorry, go if you want. If you have more questions, definitely reach out. I can definitely give you.
I will be, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Needy. I actually had a question for Catherine. When you were talking about changing your major, I think it was, or you talked about switching to something that you thought would be more competitive. And can you talk about what sorts of factors you used? What were you looking at to determine, this is going to be competitive versus something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think I was a little bit unique compared to ESF students in the sense that I knew that I wanted to work for the government, I guess, after I graduated. Something about the job stability and the benefit. I don't know why an 18-year-old was worried about health insurance, but I was like, I want that TRICARE. So I knew that I wanted, my path was to go into the uniform services. So I started out as pre-med, I did bio, and I just didn't succeed very well in biology. So it kind of made me reevaluate. And then I talked to a Navy recruiter, and I tried to see what ESF had to offer versus what was compatible with the Navy. And then I started hearing about environmental health and all the things that you could do. And I ended up picking environmental health because you could go in absolutely any direction and still have a job. Like you can go to water, wastewater, you can go into nutrition, you can go into public health policy. There's so much you could do with environmental health. And that was the biggest. I think that was why I switched to environmental health over some, and this is not knocking anything. Like my minor is in chemistry, I love chemistry, but I felt like I was pigeonholing myself if I just switched to chemistry, whereas environmental health, I had all these opportunities to explore had I not decided to go the government route. Does that make sense?
I was muted. Absolutely. A lot of good insight there. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for our panelists? All right, then I think we're going to move on. Again, panelists, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. And we really do appreciate it. All right, so next on our agenda today is something really exciting. So for the panelists, this is day 3 of our climate summit. And part of our climate summits in the past have always been working on action plans, something that our youth can do in the school environment to help either the environment in the school or around the school. So we're going to hear some of those action plans today. So I will give you the lineup of folks who are going to speak, just so you're not caught off guard. And remember, these are like your elevator speeches. All you're doing is telling us what wonderful action plan you're thinking about doing. You don't have to go into the details, just tell us what you're thinking about. And then we can have other folks in the chat. If you have comments, please put them right in the chat box. Oh, we've done this. Here's my email address. I can help you, anything like that. All right, so first up is going to be Becky from Homer, and then Nika from McGraw, Nicole from Onondaga, Bree from Solvay, Emily, our winner for trivia, from JD, and Delia from Cortland. So Becky, unmute yourself and let's hear what you guys started to talk about.
I have a little presentation. Should I share my screen for that?
Absolutely.
All right. Can you see my screen?
We can see it, Becky.
All right. Oops. All right. So I'm Becky Jones from Homer, and the Homer Environmental Club plans on building an outdoor classroom this year. We plan to build it next to our school gardens, located on the south side of our building, right there where the arrow is pointing. And our goal is just to reach out to the community. It could be a nice site to hold classes. Our agricultural class will get a lot of use out of it. It would be a good meeting site. We can hold banquets there and fundraisers as well. Maybe sell some of our produce that we get from our garden there at some point. And we hope to just advocate appreciation for our club and the environment to the community. So along the way, we have to contact our administration, the buildings and grounds, and our architect, just to keep them on board with what we plan on doing, and so they can help us along the way. And we hope to have it done by the end of the summer and ready to go for next fall. And that's just basically what we have planned for this upcoming year.
Thank you, Becky. I'm semi-partial because Becky's from Homer and that's where I am. Hey, all right. Nika, tell us what McGraw is thinking about doing this year.
Hi,